Welcome back everyone. In this video I would like to talk about an important procedure that all of us need to undertake if we ever have to drive motor vehicles in India, namely the procedure for obtaining a legal driving license in India, a permanent legal license really. So how do we obtain this driving license? First step is you have to obtain a temporary learner's license, which you can do it through your local driving school. It's a temporary one valid for maximum 6 months. For this you have to take a computer MCQ test at your local driving school where you are questioned about how to recognize essential road signs such as parking signs or road turning signs and so on. Then basic traffic rules and regulations you are required to know and follow, and of course road safety regulations. Then the next step is after a certain period of holding learner's license, minimum period is 30 days. Within the minimum period of 30 days, you are required to train yourself in how to drive motor vehicles properly. You can take up to 180 days as well. Learner's license can be held up to 6 months as well, maximum. Then after the learner's license is issued and within 30 days minimum, you are required to book your driving test at a local regional transport office, RT office, either through your local driving school, or you can nowadays do it directly through the M Parivahan app. This test needs to be taken where they can determine how competent you are to handle vehicles, and after passing the test your learner's license is cancelled and you are issued a permanent driving license which is valid for a good number of years. That said, the validity is not completely permanent. There is a third step, namely maintenance and renewal. The driving license, even after you obtain it after a certain number of years, you are required to renew it in order to avoid the license being expired. As in the Motor Vehicles Act, which governs this procedure, has laid down that even a permanent license is subject to renewal after a certain number of years. And this renewal is also important, not just so that you can continue driving vehicles legally, but also so that in the event of an accident, if you are the victim and you want compensation from the defaulting party through his insurance company, that can only be obtained if you hold a valid driving license. If you as a victim do not hold a valid license, you are not eligible for compensation from the defendant, which means that holding a valid license is essential if you ever want compensation in the event of an accident, along with being able to drive vehicles legally. So it's important to renew your driving license after a certain number of years. Now what is the period of renewal, that I'll talk about later on. So these are the three steps, primary steps we need to undertake if we want to have a license and also maintain it continuously. So moving on ahead. So phase one, as I said, is you need to get the learner's license first. Now under the Motor Vehicles Act, there are strict eligibility standards for obtaining learner's license. Number one is age eligibility. Now when it comes to motorcycles which do not have gears, you are required to be minimum 16 years of age, and for light motor vehicles like cars and all which have gears, obviously most cars have gears, you are required to be minimum 18 for LMV with gears. And if you are taking employment with a transport company, and if you want to be able to drive transport vehicles like trucks or buses, then you are required to be minimum 20. Now Motor Vehicles Act has itself laid down these limits and you are required to strictly adhere to this. If you are caught driving these vehicles under the age limit specified here, then you would be heavily fined for being underage while driving. Then next step is when you apply for a learner's license at your local at your local driving school, then you are required to submit certain documents. Namely, for eKYC you are required to submit your Aadhaar card copy. Then you are required to submit any age proof, like your domicile certificate or any other address proof document that you may have. Then you are required to submit your age proof, your PAN card and all. Then you are required to submit a declaration of physical fitness, that you are physically fit to drive a vehicle in Form 1. All of this you are required to submit at your local driving school if you want to be able to secure a learner's license. Then after submission, that's not it. You won't get a learner's license straight away. Then you are required to take a computer test, a mandatory MCQ test. You are required to undertake this, where this test will essentially cover what traffic signals and signs you need to recognize, then hand signals by other drivers, how you could recognize them, how you should recognize them. Then questions on basic road etiquette, how you should follow basic road etiquette. All of these questions will be asked in the MCQ test, which you need to answer properly. Essentially, this test is just for a theoretical knowledge. Now, there's not much meaning to this, but it helps to have a certain theoretical knowledge as well. So this test is to verify your theoretical knowledge, just like typical exams taken after a certain course. Then once you pass the digital test, which of course everybody passes, then you are issued a learner's license. Now this license is valid for maximum 6 months after it is issued, and while you are holding the learner's license, you are required to drive a vehicle only under strict supervision of a trainer from the driving school, or anybody, a trainer from the driving school. I will not say anybody else here, because it is better to drive under the supervision of a trainer from the school. That way, if anything happens, you at least have the authority of someone to save you. So it's better. So under the supervision of a trainer from the school, it's best. But of course, like I said earlier, learner's license holders can only drive under the supervision of somebody who holds a driving license, a permanent one, or better still, a trainer from the driving school. So this is about learner's license. Then next is transitioning to a permanent driving license. Now, first step to getting a permanent license is you must have held a valid learner's license and been trained properly, of course, for minimum 30 days and maximum 180 days, as in minimum 1 month, maximum 6 months. Then after you have finished your training, if you think you are well trained enough and that you are fit to hold a permanent license and to drive on your own, then in your Parivahan in the Parivahan portal or in your M-Parivahan app on your mobile, you can now book your driving test at your local RTO, or you can get it done through your local driving school. This is the preferred route, because driving schools, they usually have contacts within the RTO office where they can get the driving test booked for you along with other people. Then you can get your license issued pretty easily. Then next is at the RTO, then the driving test will be conducted where evaluators from the office will sit with you. There are certain tracks allocated for the test. They will find out how you are able to drive the vehicle properly, whether you are able to turn the vehicle properly, whether you are able to brake properly, whether you are able to shift gears properly, and so on, whether you are able to use mirrors and signals properly, or at least you are interpret signals properly. All of this is evaluated by the evaluators from the RTO office who sit beside you while you are driving the vehicle in the test. Then once the test is done, and if the evaluators have determined that you are fit enough to drive, then the RTO will issue the permanent driving license card to you. It will be sent to it. Nowadays it is sent digitally through the M-Parivahan portal itself, to the M-Parivahan app, or and also physical copies also sent through the post within a couple of months. So this is the second stage. This is essentially the final stage for a long time. Once the permanent driving license is issued, you can then drive vehicles on your own. So it is still better advice that you take the help of someone else while driving for the next couple of months, and only if you are confident enough, then you can drive on your own, especially when it comes to motor cars, because motor cars are far more riskier to drive and they are usually the ones blamed for accidents, especially if a motorcycle is involved or if a pedestrian is involved. So this is the next second step or final step in most cases. So the third step, I have talked about the first two steps, but there is a third step which I also said earlier, namely even after being issued driving license, it does not mean that you can just hold the license forever and continue to drive merrily. The Motor Vehicles Act has specified that you are required to renew the license every couple of years. So it differs based on many criteria, type of vehicle and your age and so on. So mostly on the basis of what type of vehicles you're driving. So when it comes to other types of vehicles, the usual type of vehicles you drive daily, like motorbikes or scooters or motor cars and so on, the renewal period is renewal period is essentially once you get your driving license, it is 20 years after you get your driving license or until the age of 40, whichever is lower, whichever comes first, whichever limit reaches first, that is the limit of up to which you can hold your original license. Then the renewal requirement is once you reach the age of 40, whatever documents is specified by the RT office, you are required to submit those documents and you are required to renew your license every 10 years after you reach the age of 40. And once you reach the age of 50 or 55, the renewal limit is lowered to every 5 years. Then when it comes to transport vehicles, especially trucks or buses, the renewal period is even lower. It is just 5 years. I suppose the renewal limit was lowered here largely because unlike motorbikes or motor cars, trucks and buses are far riskier to drive. They are larger, so driving them is tougher. You are, first of all, when it comes to buses, you are responsible for the safety of a huge number of people, or when it comes to trucks, you are responsible for transporting a huge quantity of goods on behalf of whatever company you are working for. Not to mention when accidents arise, when trucks or buses are involved, they usually cause lethal fatalities to other drivers involved, especially if they are in motorbikes or motor cars. So which is why renewal limit is lower. And when it comes to what is required for renewal, submitting basic documents is not enough. You are required to submit a special medical certificate as well, and it is required to be it is required to be submitted in form 1A. In this medical certificate, you are required to testify with the proof of a doctor's report that you are medically fit, that you don't suffer from any disability which might hinder you from safely driving the truck or bus in question. So medical certificate is also necessary to submit. Then when it comes to hazardous goods, let's say there are certain types of vehicles in which hazardous materials, let's say hazardous waste, nuclear waste or nuclear materials, or let's say if you are driving trucks like fossil fuel trucks, you are transporting petroleum and so on, all of this is very hazardous. Like if any accident occurs and let's say petrol spills or any environmentally dangerous nuclear waste or other sort of waste spills, then it could harm the environment and also harm the people involved in the accident. So which is why the renewal limit for the driving license in this case is even lower compared to the other two. It is just 3 years. And the renewal requirement is, it is not just enough to submit documents. Here you are required to undergo specialized training, whether it be at the a specialized training at the company at which you are working for, or and at the RT office as well, where you are submitting the you are submitting an application for renewal of the driving license here. So essentially, license, as we have seen here, license renewal differs for different types of motor vehicles. Basically, for motor cars and bikes it's different, for trucks and buses it's different, for normal trucks and buses, and for vehicles transporting hazardous materials it is different. Obviously the requirements are much more stringent for hazardous uh, goods trucks, goods vehicles, for the reasons that I have stated earlier. So so the next thing is, now when you are issued the licenses, that it doesn't mean that you have the license, you have the will to drive motor vehicles howsoever you want. Obviously even permanent license holders are susceptible to accidents. So the Motor Vehicles Act has laid down provisions which states that if certain events occurred, then your license could be temporarily suspended for a certain period. You are legally not allowed to drive, and if you commit enough offenses, your license itself could be permanently revoked. And one of these events which could cause license suspension is drunken driving. Now this is obvious. If you are drinking, if you are driving under the influence of alcohol, if you had a drink or too much and you are driving under the influence, the drivers who are drunk, they are not in control of their senses, so they cannot drive properly. So which is why drink and driving accidents are pretty common. Basically, if you drink alcohol and you drive, there is almost a guarantee of an accident. So if an accident occurs and the police, they they extract your blood, that is they take your blood, they examine it and they find alcohol content in the blood and they suspect you of drinking and driving, then for first time your license is suspended for a certain period of time, and if you and for a certain period of time, and if you commit this offense of drink and driving repeatedly, then not only is your license potentially permanently revoked, you could even end up facing jail time. You could end up being imprisoned for 6 months to 1 year. Essentially, as you have seen, drink and driving is a very heavy offense, and drinking and driving is usually one of the most common cause of accidents, which is why the punishment is also pretty heavy. Then another offense is dangerous driving. If you if you are way too adventurous and if you decide to play with the safety of others on the road by somehow racing with other vehicles on the road by driving above the speed limit, or if you if you do not obey traffic signals, like say if you run the red light, or if there are traffic signs posted and you do not obey them, for once you'd probably attract a fine or two, but if this happens repeatedly and they find that you have a history of repeat offenses, then heavy penalties could be imposed on you, more heavy fines, possibly even imprisonment of 6 months to 1 year, just like for drink and driving. Then overloading. This usually applies to trucks and other transport vehicles transporting goods. So if you're driving a truck and you are overloading it with too many goods, if that truck is, let's say, 7,500 kg laden weight maximum, like you can load goods only up to 7,500 kg, but you load like 10,000 kg, and if you are stopped at a toll plaza or a checkpoint and the inspectors find that you have put too much beyond what is permitted, then whatever permit was issued to you earlier, your license, your transport permit issued to you by the RTO, that would be immediately cancelled. And of course, essentially this is specific for transport vehicles overloading. Of course, this would apply to as ordinary vehicles as well. Like you cannot obviously overload your motor car as well, but this overloading is usually a problem for trucks and all, where they are required to transport a lot of goods across long distances on behalf of their companies. So this is a offense common to companies, and this results in immediate cancellation of licenses and permits relating to those vehicles. Then next is mobile phone use. This is a very common. Most drivers indulge in this while you're driving. If you get a call on your mobile, you pick it up, and again this is also a major cause of accident, because when you're talking on your mobile, you're too busy in talking and not paying enough attention to the road, so which means an accident could end up occurring, especially if you're driving at a high speed. So make so essentially, if you are caught using a mobile phone while you are driving, even if you are not holding it in your hand, if you are just putting it down and you are talking on the phone, and if you are caught doing so by any police officer or traffic inspector, that is also huge a major cause for being disqualified for driving. That is also a huge major cause for your license getting suspended for a certain period of time. And of course, if you do this repeatedly, then you are at risk of your license getting permanently revoked and even facing jail time. Of course, here jail time would be a lot lesser than for drink driving and for dangerous driving, but jail time would be there if you do this repeatedly. So I hope this video has helped all of you, those of you who wish to obtain a driving license. And of course, I hope this video has also made you aware of the possibility of your license getting suspended if you fail to ensure your own safety and others' safety on the road, and if you fail to follow basic traffic rules and road safety regulations on the road. So I hope this video helps all of you obtain a driving license properly, and I hope this video helps you all to drive properly and safely on the roads without attracting the anger of the police officers and traffic inspectors on the road. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like, comment and recommend this video to anyone else you know. Please also subscribe to my channel at Siddharth Bhatt 4898 and recommend this video to anyone else you know. Once again, thank you all for taking out your precious time to watch this video. Thank you all for your precious time to watch this video. Thank you all for watching this video. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.